welcome. This is an MSJN Exclusive. My name is Jena Harris, and I'm so happy to have my guests, Chad and Wendy Hawley, with me today. They are the founders of Nexus Mountain Network, and I first met you guys at the New Era Conference, which is an education conference that Chris Reed spearheaded and hosted here at Morningstar. And I heard about your Nexus Mountain Network. It's an app, but it's so much more. And then I heard about your story, just a little bit about your story when we met. So I felt so inspired, and I really wanted everybody else to hear your story too. So thank you so much for coming and being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
we're glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's just, first of all, if you can kind of give us an overview of what Nexus Mountain Network is, and then we can dive into the story.
Sure. We're excited to be here, first of all. Thank you so much. Wendy and I have worked really hard at this, but we know it's what God's called us to do. Mm-hmm. So the Nexus Mountain Network is a social network that connects Christians to learn and to achieve together God's purposes in society, which we also call the Seven Mountains.
Right.
And so we believe those are key to success as we move forward to make a difference that God is calling us to do. Mm-hmm. And so we started this whole thing by a wild idea, but in short, that is what we're doing.
Okay, that's amazing. I am really happy to see this, because we need these alternative platforms, because censorship is such a huge thing. And I know that with your platform, people are able to connect without even having to censor themselves, much less being censored otherwise. So I found out that you are really a purpose-driven person, and you like to teach that.
Yes.
And there's a famous quote from Mark Twain that says, "The two most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day you find out why." And I think that's so profound, because many people really don't know why they were born and why they were put on this earth. So can you tell us, for yourselves, did you have a defining moment where you realized, this is my purpose and I can't go another day without doing this?
I love that quote, by the way. I'm going to steal it, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm going to use that totally, because it just resonated with me even while I'm sitting here. It resonated with me because it's why we come alive. It's why we wake up every day. It's absolutely true, and it's so true in our life. And I want to tell this story because I want to inspire other people to know that purpose will save your life. And it was true for us. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea of the Nexus Mountain Network started with, I was actually diagnosed with cancer, and it got really bad. And it was probably, is it 4 years or 5 years now?
Yeah, 4.5.
4.5, about 4.5 years ago. And I had a lump in my neck, and I ignored it, and I didn't think too much of it. And then I went to the doctor, and I got the phone call, the dreaded phone call that nobody wants to get. And that is, you have cancer. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked. She was shocked. And we thought, well, we're people of faith. We're going to make it through. It's going to be okay. And we did. We had what the Bible calls the peace that passes all understanding. So I had one surgery. I had another surgery. And thankfully, Wendy is so smart that she navigated this process for me on my behalf. Mm-hmm. And it appeared to be going successfully. And then the doctor said, okay, after the second surgery, we're going to do another scan. And we're going to find out at this point, if we find something else, that means it's spread. And if it's spread, it's not good. And that means it's serious, because I've already had 2 surgeries, and in 30 days it spread that quickly. So 30 days go by, I get a phone call, and my doctor starts to small talk, and I said, just cut to the chase. Mm-hmm. My heart's, racing. I have 4 children who are married over 20 years. And the doctor says, Chad, I'm sorry, but it's already spread. And so it was like, in that moment, the shield of faith kind of just fell down on my arm, and fear came in and hit me. And it was like, wow, am I going to die? This doesn't make sense. I felt like I haven't accomplished what I was created for yet. So that's why I love this quote that you just used with Mark Twain, because I get this news, and the doctor says, all right, in order to keep you alive, we could try chemo, we could try radiation, or we could try a third surgery, to cut out part of your tongue. And I knew, one thing that I knew is I was called to talk. And so I knew this was a direct attack, but my faith began to wane in that moment where I thought I was strong. And so, Jena, that's where it all happened for me. So yes, was there that moment? Yes, this was that moment. And so in that moment, I went to a deep depression for probably 2 to 3 days. And I remember being on the floor in my bedroom, and I asked the Lord one question. And I said, why did you create me? And I had to know, because I had tried everything up until that point. We had seen miracles in our own lives. We've laid hands on the sick before. Even in my case, we tried holistic and deliverance ministries, and just to preserve what was the attack that was coming against us. And I really felt like I got this idea from God. And the idea was that I was going to create a social network for Christians to connect together, to learn together, to achieve together God's purposes in society. And I was going to do it by organizing by the 7 mountains of influence. Quite an idea, right? It's like, hey, you get this diagnosis, and this is what you're supposed to do now. And so I, instead of thinking about death, I began to imagine life. I began to use my creativity to build upon this idea that I thought I had. I'm not going to claim I was a great man of faith. I was desperate. Yeah. But I feel like I had a glimmer of hope why I was going to live. So I took this idea, and I was in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. And so I was not a technical person. We're looking here at cameras and lights, and I didn't have this technology. But I went on my computer, and I took this simple loaf of bread, and I created something with it. And I created a movie trailer on my computer, a 90-second video movie trailer about the future of my life, including this idea. I wrote a script, I did voiceover, animation, sounds, and graphics. And I took this idea, and I took this video, and I submitted it to my inner circle. And I said, agree with me, I'm going to live and not die, and I'm going to fulfill this purpose. The one thing that I had not done yet was completely surrender to Him and giving Him my life. Whereas if this really was an idea from Him, I could hold Him accountable for keeping me alive instead of like my own abilities or skills or even faith. Yeah. And so I didn't know if it was going to work, I'll be honest. Now I look back, it's like, whoa, this explosive story. And so that was the moment, like, maybe purpose will actually save my life.
Wow. That's amazing. That is really amazing. And Wendy, what I wanted to ask you is, in that moment too, the love of your life is facing this terrible diagnosis. He's the father of your children. He's the anchor of your family. What were you feeling in those moments, and how did you deal with it?
It was really hard, but there wasn't a moment that I pictured him being gone. The Lord just protected me and just held, I just had faith in the Lord that He was going to give us an answer, that He was going to deliver Chad. And He just gave me the strength to be the backbone for Chad and to just stand when he couldn't stand. And so the Lord just surrounded me with amazing people who were praying for me, and just He directed every step. He gave me wisdom on what to do. I was able to we were scheduled for a surgery, and I was able to, it was pretty quick because they said it had spread and we needed surgery right away. I was able to get a second opinion, and everything from that second opinion changed. So He just directed every step.
Wow. So I also wanted to ask, so when you had this idea, and after your moments of depression and having this, real face-to-face conversation with the Lord, and you get this idea. So when you shared it with Wendy, what was your response?
It was 100%. Yes, God's going to do it. It just gave me a lot of excitement because I could see the depression sitting in on Chad, and it was hard to see. And then just knowing that this is what God's going to do, He's going to bring him through. So to see the hope back in Chad's eye. That's
so amazing. So then I wanted to ask you about the healing. So you experienced the healing, obviously. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, this is so cool. I love anyone who asks me to tell this story. I tell it, and because it brings God glory and also brings hope to other people's lives. And I hope you take this story for yourself to know that God created you for a purpose, so much so it can literally save your life. And I loved what Wendy said, because I haven't heard some of the things that she just said right here, right now. And so, and encouraged me as well to hear from her perspective as well. And so here's what happened. So we do this thing, and we were actually in Washington, D.C. We were at an event, and I remember emailing the doctor and saying, "Are you sure this is cancer?" And I'm sitting in the Lincoln room at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. She's fighting like crazy to save my life because I'm like barely holding on. And the doctor responds, and I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But he either said, this is 99% or 95%, either or. So it was one of the two. And I remember sitting there, and I was actually in this room, and a mentor of ours, Lance Wallnow, was in this room with a small group of people, and he was talking about purpose and saving life, and he was talking about this subject. And I remember looking at him. I was only this far from him. And I remember looking at him going, this doesn't even matter, because I'm not even going to live. This means nothing to me. This is bouncing off my heart, which it was such a passionate message for me. And so 2 days from that moment, I was supposed to get that third surgery. I was supposed to go down the road to chemo and radiation. Somehow, she figured out how to get a hold of this doctor at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas, and they were out of the country. Short version is, the doctor said, wait. So we ended up going to MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. And we walked in there. I had 11 appointments lined up to examine me. They were ready to make $1 million off me to try to preserve me. Wendy and I went down there. And I could see for the first time it was really weighing on her. And she usually hit it well, but I could see the nerves and the fear and the shaking. And we saw people had these major scars on their faces, and they're using the voice boxes to talk. And I knew, man, that could be my future, in their short-term future. We walk into the exam room. The doctor walks in finally. And we're sitting there, and he examines me. And then he looks at a little report that Wendy brought on her computer. And here I was supposed to get these three things: the chemo, radiation, third surgery. And the doctor says, like it was a Pentecostal meeting and a prophet was speaking to me. And he says, Chad, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. And it was like, we were not prepared for this. We were not prepared for those words. And I remember going, looking over at her, and she looking at me, or eyeballs both get large. And I'm like, I'm sorry, clear my own throat. I said, what? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with you. And to verify my belief, I'm going to send you for an ultrasound. And he did. I get this ultrasound. My blood pressure was so high. I barely made by 1 point. I made the mark to get this ultrasound. They do the ultrasound. And I'm waiting, and it was the longest 5 to 7 minutes of my life. I'm like, this is the moment. And I'm sitting there in this exam room by myself. I'm like, Lord, this is it. And the nurse comes in. She opens up the curtain. She says, okay, you can go now. And I said, whoa. What do you mean I can go now? I mean, I can go now. They found nothing, or I can go now because you'll call and give me the results. She says, Chad, you can go now. They found nothing. And I was like, oh my Lord. And there was many divine things that had led up to this moment. But that moment was, they canceled all my appointments. And they said, the doctor called me, and he says, go home. Not only is there nothing wrong, this is the prophet part that stunned me, because doctors don't say this. I don't think you're ever going to have a problem with this again. That was 4.5 years ago, and nothing has happened since.
Wow, praise God.
Yes.
That's amazing. So when you heard those words, did you feel that weight just completely fly away? What was the process like when you heard those words?
I would say for me, it was more like a faucet being turned on of the pressure starting to come out, because I had experienced trauma. And so it wasn't just like it just went away, because I was like, wait, what? Because it was like 100 words said this, and then now I have one new word leaking in saying the opposite. So it was like the faucet turned on, and it started to leak hope or the pressure that was in started to come out. So it was like a slow, leaky deliverance almost of like mental deliverance because the physical manifestation was present.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense because your whole existence up to that point was facing possibly more surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation, and your whole life was wrapped up in that. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, do you feel there was a healing, like a moment when the healing happened?
It's hard to tell because I don't know for sure. What I know for sure is the Lord intervened and gave me a way out. So when I pray now for people with cancer, that's my new prayer. I pray, Lord, give them, and I even look into the camera, someone that might be having cancer right now, and you're struggling with it. And I say this with all sincerity of my heart. May the Lord give you a way out like he gave me.
Amen.
And so I don't know if I can put my finger on it. I told you the doctor said I needed these 3 things. It showed up in the scan, in the CT scan. He said 99, 95% sure. Those were realities. And then we had several divine like clues, interventions, moments, encounters along the way that we look back on and say, maybe that was the moment. I remember being called out. We went to a service once. It was actually Bobby Connor.
Okay.
And a friend who never, ever, ever reached out to me once and said, Bobby Connor's going to be speaking at this church. It's like 45 minutes from here, an hour from here. I don't know why. I feel like I'm supposed to tell you about this. And so we said, okay, let's go. And on the way, I told her, I said, I pretty much guarantee I'm going to get called out in this service. So I usually do. I have that face or look or something. I don't know. I usually get called out, but I knew. And so sure enough, he called me out. And, and when I remember coming up, we videotaped this. I went up there and he said, what are you up here for? And I said, well, I have cancer. He says, his southern twang, I don't see cancer. So there was so many different things that happened that made us go, maybe that was a moment. We had a lot of prayer. I don't know the exact moment. It wasn't like I woke up and I had this encounter. It's just all I knew was I was present. And then I realized, whoa, I have a message. That purpose saved my life.
And so you wrote a book.
Yes.
Purpose will save your life. So
I did.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So this is the book. I have it here. So this is called Purpose Will Save Your Life. What to do and what actions to take right now. So I was in the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years. I was the national sales trainer for the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world. So I had a lot of experience in professional development and training. And so I took those skills and experiences and I coupled it with the supernatural, and I wrote this book. And so this book takes you step by step and uncovers a lot of different things. We leverage technology. We have QR codes at the end of each chapter. And by the time you get to the end of the book, not only do you have your own initial plan, you have clarity for your life, but we even teach you how to write your own movie trailer, the script for it anyway. And so about the future of your life. And so this is why I felt prompted to the Lord, and it was so much grace on it. We did it pretty quickly, but we did it to help others capitalize on the testimony that God gave us.
Yes. I'm very much looking forward to reading this book and telling all my friends and family about it as well. This is great because I'm thinking about my children, of course.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, they're on their path to discover their purpose as well. And so I'm excited about introducing this book to them.
Well, here, you can have this copy right here. This is for you.
Thank you.
Now it's yours.
Thank you so much. I will definitely appreciate this. Thank you so much. So let's go back to the Nexus Mountain Network and just give us some more details about this. And also if you have testimonies of people that have used it and how it's helped them to discover their purpose, their mountain, connect with other people.
Yeah, so I'll set up a little bit, and then Wendy's going to tell a really awesome story because the Nexus means a series of connections. If you notice, it doesn't say Chad Hawley or Wendy Hawley Ministries. We were very intentional with this because this is a collaboration. Okay. We didn't want to promote us personally because that's what God called us to do. And it's a series of connections. Network is the mountain, of course, is the 7 mountains, and then the network is network of people. So one of the tools that we created to help this network is a beautiful state-of-the-art app. It's absolutely free. You can go on Google and Apple right now, and you can download the Nexus Mountain Network. And what you'll find is ways, it has capabilities like LinkedIn, like a Christian LinkedIn. Facebook has capabilities like Facebook. It has learning tools. Our show, we have a show, and we interview people who are climbing the mountains so other people can be inspired to do it as well. We put this stuff in there. We do events so that we're collaborating. We do local events. We're involved with some bigger scale events, which we'll share in a moment. And so that's a great way to get started so that you can begin to connect with us to ultimately achieve. So we have a story for you. This is a phenomenal story of how we're achieving, because some people think we're an app. And we want to be clear, that's just a tool to help us succeed. And so I want Wendy to tell this story because she's the one that spearheaded this. So Wendy, tell us what happened. So she first found this promotion of pedophilia, rape, and incest. It was terrible in her local high school. Tell them what happened.
So the librarian at the school had created a TikTok challenge for the kids to say why books shouldn't be banned. And the winner of that contest was going to be the principal of the day. And she created a list of the most commonly banned books in America that are available in their high school library. And she said, come check one out today. And these books are sexually explicit, they're LGBTQ content, they're graphic novels, and they should never be allowed in the school library. And so I was livid. Through our connections at Nexus, we had connections in the local government, we had connections with a school board member, we had connections with the news, with the media. And so I was able to make people aware of what was happening, and we were able to get the initiative shut down within 24 hours at the school. They stopped the initiative. And then I had written letters to the school board telling them what was happening. They all got kicked back because of the pornographic nature of my emails just describing what was happening in the school. Wow. And so we were able to gather 7 members of Nexus to speak at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school board meeting. And so we had a diverse group of male and female and different races, and we were able to hit this from different viewpoints. Chad actually had a fiery speech where he read material from the book. And so because of that, we were able to change how Charlotte even reviews books that are in the library. So there's been changes put in place because this was just last spring because of Nexus coming together. And we were on national news also.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're actually affecting change, and it is affecting culture. This is so incredible. I had heard about this initiative that was started, and I'm shocked that a school librarian would do this sort of thing. But that's so amazing that you were able to do that. It's incredible.
And it's just through Nexus, we want to give people the connections to have courage to come together and to stand up because, we are on the right side of history on this.
Absolutely.
That's a great point. And so we have this whole purpose message, but probably that's 1A. Message 1B is probably courage because, we want to lead by example. We don't want to just talk the talk. We don't want to have a good message, which there's many, 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 many good messages, which many of you have heard. We want to go to the next step, but we can't just, we have to have a way and platform to collaborate, and we've created that. We feel like the Lord is allowing us to do this. By the way, this whole cancer thing and idea, the Lord didn't release us to do the Nexus Mountain Network until 4 years later. It's like the biblical example where David was anointed. And he was anointed to be king, but he didn't become king for a long time. Right. And so you find this as a biblical example, and that's what happened to us. In fact, even more hell came to our life after I got the release from cancer. And so, but it wasn't, but then the Lord came in and said, now's the time, in just powerful, miraculous ways. And so we want people to know to have courage because you don't have to be afraid. I mean, we have stood up. I'm no longer in the pharmaceutical industry. I had 20 years career in there, and I had to make a very strong stand on an issue that just happened in the last year, and I went all in on this stance. I lost my career over it, but I had the courage. And when you're doing what God's called you to do, you feel like that courage isn't, it won't be so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it together, whereas unity, God commands a blessing. And inside Nexus, we are creating that unity.
Yeah. I remember Lance teaching about your divine assignment, but he divinely aligns people for your assignment. And so the Nexus Mountain Network is the perfect avenue by which people can find their community within their sphere of influence. And I don't know if you want to, I'm sure that most people in our audience have heard about the 7 mountains, but would you just quickly just go through what the seven mountains are?
So first of all, this is great. I forgot to mention this. This is a good setup. So you can download the app. If you don't know what your primary and secondary mountain is right now, in fact, we were just talking before the show, Jena just took this. There's a free assessment inside the app. It takes you about 8 minutes to complete. It's all automated, and it will give you information about your primary and secondary mountain. I like to say for this season, because these mountains do change. So the mountains that we're referring to, some people call them spheres of influence. Some people might think there's 8 or have different names, but basically, in short, we have what we're doing right now. What Jena's doing, she's doing media. We have education. We have government. We have arts and entertainment, we have family, we have religion, we have business. Is that 7?
Yep.
I think I got them.
Yeah, you got them all.
And so, so it's interesting. And I think that some people, this isn't a label. This is just a help you define what you're supposed to do right now during the season, because they do change. And so you look at examples like, even we brought up Lance Wallnau. He's changed. He was in business. He was in media. He was emphasis on government. And then like President Trump, you think about all the different changes he's made. I'm seeing a change in my life right now where I've always had one foot in business and one foot in media. Now I kind of feel, or not media, minister in religion. And now I feel like it's changing to media. You know, I have a show and I'm getting invited to come on shows because I have a message to share. And that's one thing we talked about before. Some people assume that a media is just in front of the cameras like we are now, but a lot of times media is about a message. And that you have a message to share. You have a story to share, just like God's given me a story and Wendy a story to share, and she has her own stories to share too. So in a nutshell, that's the 7 mountains. And so we can organize not only together, but you might be a business person who needs someone in government. Just like that example that Wendy shared, is that we needed media, we needed government, we needed religion people to execute the call of God to stop this promotion in the high school. So we collaborated to get it done.
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask you about your next steps. So with the Nexus Mountain Network, you're having events. Is it focused on a particular city or a particular group, or how are you?
Great question.
Promoting it?
There's 2 answers. So we have local events. The Nexus Mountain Network, we started as a prototype in Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. And so it has been successful. So we have local events. We had our first Nexus Summit. We had our first conference. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. It was a success, but we also learned how much more we can do. And then the other thing is we just did this successful, and I'll say this here unashamedly, we just did helped with the New Era Conference here at Morningstar. And what we did was we used our technology to enhance the conference, where we used it for putting people in their own groups so they can connect with one another. They can search to find out different people by geography or mountain type. And then we did live videos and streaming of the event. And now they're all in this place where they can stay connected. When they left the conference, they can stay connected, was what I meant to say. And so now, because of that success, we're going, even this fall, we're going to California. We're going to be doing the same thing for Sean Bowles' event and Bob Hassan's event. It's the Marketplace Kingdom Summit in California at Jesus Culture San Diego. And so we're going to be doing the same thing. And so we're going to be there's probably going to be 500-600 people there. And we're going to put them in a group. And so when they're in a group inside the app, they can start connecting and stay connected to ultimately achieve, versus just leaving the event and going, oh, that was a good event, and then not knowing what to do about it. And so that's one extra thing that we're doing to enhance the collaboration.
Okay. Yeah, that's so exciting. Wow. So it is spreading like wildfire, and it's really helping people get connected in the body of Christ. I love this.
Yes, and our goal is to start Nexus communities in different cities as we find leaders who are willing to take that on.
Okay, and what would that look like for someone if they wanted to be a leader in a city?
Yeah, sure. So the good news is we developed a prototype. And so
Okay.
when we have someone who says, this is also my purpose. It's not just a good leader or a talented person. This is also my purpose. Then we can get behind that person, and you can see the initiative that they start to take. And they're like, oh, I want to do this too. And they start to collaborate. And so then what we do is then we give them what we did in Charlotte, and they begin a development. And then we can go to those cities to support them, encourage them. And so again, this is absolutely free. What we built this technology, we personally paid for this. We don't even have a monetization plan yet to support it. There's ways to give, but that's not our purpose. And so our point is to no strings attached. Let's do this.
That's great. That's such an investment, and you're investing into something that's eternal. And so I pray that blessing will continue to come and to flow as you're building this out, and that all the provision will be there that you need. So is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience today before you go? Anything you want to plug and how people can get the app? Well, not just the app. I know that's just the the tip of the iceberg. The social networking, and anything else that they could maybe tap into. They can connect with you.
I would say this as more of a message, and I'll just speak to the people that are watching. You too have a purpose. And we never thought that we'd, well, I don't know if we never thought it, but this story is also your story. It's not just, that's just that guy, or that's just Wendy or Chad. They might have talents no, that's not the way this works. Is God created you for a purpose, and that purpose will save your life. I highly encourage you to pursue it with all that you have. When you do, two things will come from it. You'll have trust from God, and the favor that you have never seen before will fall on your life because you've given God your yes. If you want to join us, you can do it. Start by joining us on the Nexus Mountain Network app, Apple Store, Google Play Store. You can directly message us through the app. When you download it, you're going to get all kinds of information to help you succeed. We're there to help you do it.
Thank you so much. And I want to encourage everybody to get this book. I'm so excited to start this for myself. And I want to thank you all for joining us today for this MSJN exclusive. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
Hey, this is Chris Reed, and I want to tell you about probably my most favorite conference of the year, the Advanced Prophetic Conference here at Morningstar, October the 19th through the 21st. And I'll be speaking, Rick Joyner will be speaking, and Chuck Pierce will be here with us as our special guest speaker. And we're going to have worship with Kalani Webb, Don Potter, and Misty Edwards from IHOP. This conference is going to be about purifying the prophetic, getting back to the original spirit of prophecy. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And you know, there's been so much controversial about the prophetic in the last few years. I believe we're going to have a clarion call to realign with the testimony of Jesus, and we're going to see what's coming, how to strategize for the days ahead, how to plan, how to be prepared for the best days of human history. I'll see you there.
Jesus taught that the end of the age is the time for harvest, a time when we see the maturity of every seed mankind has sown. both good and evil. That's why we face the ultimate battle between light and darkness, truth and deception. The ultimate conflict between good and evil is the end of this age.